Here we go then. This is route number 16 at Darlington Test Centre. Now this is footage of an actual test route and an actual test day with one of my students. Unfortunately, she did fail. I will point out whereabouts it was. But same rules apply as we're leaving the test centre. It's a 10 mile an hour. And we're going to be going all the way down to the bottom and turning left out of the test centre. Now please do remember it is 10 miles an hour down here. Don't go throwing away your test right at the very beginning. Now we've had a discussion with another instructor and we've decided these aren't really enforceable speed limits because they're not legal signage, but do you want to take that risk? No, we don't. So basically when the examiner says jump, you say how high. It's only for 35-40 minutes. You are going to be nervous. Guaranteed. It's human nature to be nervous. If you're not nervous, then there's probably something wrong. But trust me, your nerves will disappear 5 to 10 minutes into the test. You're just going to actually realise what you're doing is just driving. What you've been doing all the time with your instructor. Now this is quite a bad junction to get out of, as you know from previous routes which we've done. But today we're going left and we're using the advantage of the lights being on red. Now you're straight into a 40 mile an hour zone, so we really want to be getting our speed up to the speed of everybody else. As long as it's safe to do so, we always want to be moving with the flow of traffic. We don't want to be holding people up. So remember those three S's. We don't want to make anybody stop, we don't want to make anybody slow down, and we certainly don't want to make anybody swerve. Now we're going to be turning towards Lingfield Point, which is a third exit at the roundabout. It's a right turn. My method of teaching roundabouts is the clock method. Anything at 12 o'clock and beforehand is classed as a left turn. Anything after 12 o'clock we class as a right turn. And as you can see, our approach here is the right hand lane. Now we'll be checking into the roundabout. We've noticed the car coming round, so we've slowed it down. Another quick check to make sure that our gap between the last exit and ourselves is clear in both lanes before we enter the roundabout. And of course, checking left mirror and centre mirror. So you can see we've actually got a nice sunny day for a change, but it is winter time or autumn time, so we do get the low sun. Now, what you want to be keeping a pair of sunglasses at least in the car if you're struggling with a sun visor. Some people, a sun visor is just no use. Too small. Get a cushion. So we're going to be turning left into the housing estate. And then turning right at the end of the road. Now this is quite a tight little housing estate. Plenty of parked vehicles around, so of course appropriate speed. You're not going to be rattling through at 30 miles an hour. You simply don't know what's coming around the corners. So this is what we should be doing all of the time when we're driving, is driving to the appropriate speed to the conditions of the road or weather conditions, etc. Now here we go then, we're being pulled up on the left. This is going to happen several times throughout the test. Please remember that when you move off that, you must check those blind spots. That is the big thing, especially the right blind spot. Over your right shoulder. If you're unsure as to why you check them, have a look in your mirror and get somebody to walk along the right hand side of you, and you will see where they disappear and how much of an area you can't see because of the blind spot. Now as we come around this corner, we're going to have a meet situation with another vehicle. Now with us looking well into the distance, we're able to act accordingly, and in this case the van has decided he's going to pull up and let us come through. Now, don't worry too much about waving a thank you to the other driver. You're on your driving test. You need to be concentrating on your driving. Yes, it's nice to say thank you to people, but don't let it influence your drive. So we'll be turning left at the end of the road. Again, still in the housing estate and still having to deal with parked vehicles. But also the advantage is it's quite a quiet road also. So we can see now just from the sun on the camera, it's causing a few little problems there. This is why it's always a good idea to keep sunglasses in the car, and do use them. So we're approaching traffic lights. We will be turning right at the traffic lights when we get there. So noting that we do have a bike box there. Now do remember that bike boxes, we can't go into those. If you do mistakenly go into them, you must stop at the second stop line. Now remember, this is just going to be a normal right turn. It's just controlled with traffic lights. So we're going to take up our normal position. We're watching the oncoming traffic also, making sure that there's enough room for them to get past if they're going straight ahead. Watching what's going on, and then making our turn and heading for the left-hand lane. So you can see we're looking into the distance, so we can see we've got a red light, and you can see my student is still moving. It's always best if you can keep the car moving, even if you're just crawling. It's eco-friendly. You're not using as much fuel, gas, fumes, etc. to get the car moving again. And it helps for the wear and tear on the vehicle also. Plus, if you're driving a manual car, you've got your biting point there already. You don't have to quickly find biting points and accelerate away. Now we're approaching the mini roundabout just near the two railway bridges. You can just see the bridges there in the distance. Now at these traffic lights, we're initially in the left-hand lane, as you can see by the road markings. However, we move across to the right as we go through the traffic lights, obviously making sure not to encroach on the vehicles turning right. You can see there, because immediately the lanes change to left and then straight ahead. So we should be stopping for this pedestrian. Now, as we go over this mini roundabout, if you look over to the right, you'll see anybody who's in the right-hand lane are going straight ahead, and anybody in the left-hand lane is coming round the roundabout. Now, obviously make sure that that is what is happening, but it can give you an idea ready so you're planning ahead and being aware of what's going on. Now, there may well have been a reason there why my student didn't stop for that pedestrian because of somebody behind. Okay, so we're turning next left. It is a bus lane. Don't cross over the solid white line, and make sure you check your mirrors before you do the moving across. Taxis like to come down there, even though I believe they're not allowed down there. It is purely a bus lane, and it is in use 24/7. So we've turned left onto Park Place. We're going back behind the back of the fire station and police station. And for all of you manual drivers, the reason I say this is because my student's driving automatic today. Manual drivers especially, this is a horrible junction. I'm sure you have all done it. My tip to my drivers is, when you pass over that 20 sign on the road markings, go into first gear and try and crawl up to the line. If you have to stop, then at least you're already in first gear. I've had too many students try and pull away in third gear and not realise, and of course, stalling. When I say too many, I actually mean one student did it, which is one too many. Now, if you do lose sight of the stop line, if you put your shoulders level with the end of the building, you should be stopping in a good position. Now, this is the second fail on this hill, is people go forward all the way up to the traffic lights thinking that's the stop line. It's not. The stop line is set right the way back. Also, with these traffic lights, you are the only traffic which is moving when it's on green. All the three other roads are on red, so you're able to continue without having to make sure that anybody's coming round. Okay, so at the roundabout, we're going to be taking the first exit towards Northallerton in this instance. Again, ensuring that there's nothing between us and the last exit in both lanes. The reason I say both lanes is, imagine if one of the vehicles came round on the inside lane and then they suddenly changed their mind and you're in their way. Now again, you're going uphill past Sainsbury's, and there are several traffic lights crossings. Again, awareness and planning. If you can see the lights are on red, don't race up to the back of the car in front of you. Take your time to get there and try and keep the car moving. Again, this is really good driving, especially if you are driving a manual car. As you can see there, my student, she's attempted to keep it moving. Not so much of an issue in an automatic because the car's not going to stall. Now we're taking the first exit towards Northallerton. Now this is the first time we've done this route. The road at the end, entering the roundabout, is 3 lanes. Make sure you stay in the left-hand lane. Again, still treating it as a normal roundabout, checking what vehicles are coming from the right. Checking what's happening at the exit of your roundabout. And again, as you can see, we're getting sunlight in our eyes again as we're driving into it. Now we're coming up to a little mini roundabout here. It is still a roundabout. You must treat it as such. In the past, I have had some students just go straight across. Luckily, nothing has been coming the opposite direction. Then we get pulled up on the left-hand side and we have a little chat. Now at this time, the council have been out, they've cut down the hedges, they've cut down back the trees, so we can now see the signage telling us where we're going. And we are heading towards Northallerton. The road will split into left and right. Now, as you look at the signage, you'll see that Northallerton is before 12 o'clock. So therefore, we should be treating it as a left turn. Now, unfortunately, this is where my student failed, as they stayed in the right-hand lane to turn right. They should have been in the left-hand lane, looking at the road markings following the 167. This is a busy roundabout. You need to take your opportunity when it arises and be nice and positive about it. Now, we should have been in the left-hand lane. And then we see there we've exited the roundabout. So do remember, I know there are some instructors out there who don't like the clock method, but it works. If your exit off the roundabout is 12 o'clock or beforehand, it's a left-hand approach. After 12 o'clock, it is a right-hand approach. Now, I will say that method works most of the time. However, sometimes local knowledge says different, and also road markings. So, for example, let's say, for instance, we were doing the Northallerton turn-off, which was before 12 o'clock. But the road markings told us we had to go into the right-hand lane. Then obviously we would take the right-hand lane. So we must adhere to road markings and signage. So just to reiterate it one more time, my student went into the wrong lane. It should have been the left-hand lane at the, what we always called the Reg Vardy roundabout. Okay, so we're travelling on a country road. It's quite a wide country road, this. You can get up to speed quite easily. You would be expected again to drive to the road and weather conditions, as well as traffic. What we don't want to be doing is plodding along when we could be going at a higher speed, holding other traffic up. Therefore, we'd be inconveniencing others. So we do have a few bends, and this is where we should be using our viewpoint. Now the viewpoint is, if you've got a nice long straight road, you can accelerate and get up to speed because you can see what's coming for quite some distance. If you get a constant view, as we do now, so therefore we can see a constant distance as we're going round a bend, so therefore you're going into the bend and the bend is still opening up, you can keep a constant speed. However, as we'll see in a moment, you're coming up to a bend where your view is disappearing. It's getting less and less. You need to slow down. You must look ahead and plan what you're doing. And always driving, as I've said before, to road and traffic conditions, as well as the weather. We take on the next road on the left. Quite a big wide open junction. Don't get too caught out with it. Don't go too far from the edge of the road. Now we've just passed a sign there saying that the road narrows, and it does narrow quite a bit. It's on a bend going up a hill. Again, awareness and planning. If you're looking as far ahead as possible at an appropriate speed, you will be able to tackle a situation with no issues. Now, as we're coming through Hurworth Place, you'll see there are lots of parked cars on our right-hand side. Now, coming in this direction, we can see that the vehicles are pulling into little gaps and letting us come through, which is brilliant. However, if you do a test route where you come in the opposite direction, you need to be looking well ahead and making sure that you've got a gap to get into. If you find yourself going past a vehicle where the parked cars are, you must slow down because you don't have a lot of space. So any of you that are familiar with this route, just let you know, at the time of recording this, new 20-mile-an-hour signs have been put up near the school. Make sure you don't miss them. These ones are enforceable. They are in a red circle. You will see 20-mile-an-hour signs in a black circle, usually when it says when lights flash. If it's inside a black circle, they are basically advisory, and that's the speed they would like you to do. However, I've heard of instances where there's been no reason to do 20 miles an hour and people have failed their test. How true that is, I'm not too sure. But to be on the safe side, again, awareness and planning. So you see there that the new 20-mile-an-hour zone, and it was in the red circle, so we must do 20, and again it's repeated on the road. Now my students being pulled over there, they've been explained to them that they will be doing an emergency stop along this road. Also remember, with emergency stops, not every test will do an emergency stop. You see there, we're coming out of the 30 zone, and then we're into an emergency stop. We didn't take very long with that at all. Normally on an emergency stop, you would be into park or into neutral, handbrake applied. You would then be asked to move on and told, I won't ask you to do that again. But I think because of the location, the examiner just asked my student to continue once we'd stopped. So we've got a right-hand bend here with buildings on our left-hand side. We're going to be turning left just at the end of the buildings. There is a gap between the buildings, and then we've got the Spar shop on the right-hand side. And we have bollards with a very tight turn. You've got to slow right the way down for this junction. We can see the bollards there. We can see how tight the turn is. If we've got another vehicle coming out, there's every chance to go very close to it. Now, as we can see, my student this time, she's allowed the pedestrian to cross, which is absolutely fine. It's safe to do so, and we are now protecting the pedestrian. And we even get a thank you from the pedestrian. So you can see we're into a 20 zone one more time. And by the road markings, we can see that there is a school. So we're being pulled up on the left-hand side one more time. And back into a 30 zone. Now a little bit further on, we've got road calming measures. Now for me, I think these are the wrong way around. We have to give way when the obstruction is on the opposite side of the road, and vice versa when we get to the other side. Usually you'll find them that people give way to you when it's on their side of the road. So we keep seeing lots of road signs around for like roadworks, roads narrowing, that type of thing. My advice to you, so that you don't miss a road sign, is read everything. Whether it's a house for sale, whether it's a business sign, a banner at the side of the road, everything. And then that way you won't miss anything. Now, we've just passed a road worker there. Now, I was always taught, walk on the opposite side of the road facing traffic. But these days, people don't seem to get caught that. You've got to think of your own safety as well. Anyway, we're back into a 60 zone, and we can see there we've actually got the roadworks. These are temporary roadworks or mobile roadworks, so therefore there's no lights put out. But we've got the two men at either end with signboards, stop-go boards. Now, there's something you don't see very often, so I'm quite pleased we saw that on this clip. Yes, they are enforceable, and yes, you need to stop if it says stop. Again, we just passed a sign there saying we've got sharp bends coming up. And we have slow written on the road. Now, we're being asked the question, it's not 60 miles an hour along this road, is it? Well, yes, it is. But common sense prevails. If you're coming to a sharp bend, you're not going around at 60 miles an hour. Simple as that. Now, my theory is they don't want to be putting up hundreds of signs to tell you to slow down, to speed up, to slow down, to speed up. So I'm guessing that the people who do the roads are thinking you're going to use your common sense. So when you see a bend, with your awareness and planning, you're going to slow down to get round the bend safely. Now, as we're coming away from Hurworth, we're heading back towards the A66. We've got slow written on the road. We've got double yellow lines either side. We've got a sign telling us that there's a giveaway in 50 yards. Literally, as we come round this bend, there is a giveaway. Now, you've got the early warning there simply because it comes on you as soon as you get round the bend. Now, this one, you do have to turn into the junction, as we should with all left turns, and make sure you look over that right shoulder to see what's coming, just because of the design of the junction. Now, we're going to be turning third exit at the stadium. And as you can see, my student this time has positioned herself in the correct position over to the right. She's looked in nice and early and managed to get away. Now, it looked like there's a car possibly coming joining us. So we're checking that centre mirror and left door mirror and making sure that we still have the space to get off. If we didn't, we'd go round the roundabout again. It's quicker to go around the roundabout than it is to get the car repaired for 3 or 4 weeks in the garage. Now we're back onto a 60 mile an hour road, nice and straight, so we can get up to speed quite easily. However, we are still doing our awareness and planning and reacting nice and early to anything that we need to. So this is where you can pretty much think that you're coming into the last section. However, maintain concentration because we don't want to be throwing things away this late in the test. As we approach, we're taking the left-hand turning, and you can see we've got our own filter lane. Also, telling you there's a sharp bend, telling you must turn left and there's a giveaway coming. It's also advising you to slow down. Look into the roundabout as you are coming round, but remember to look which way you're going also. Then you can make a decision nice and early. I have a phrase which I love to use with my students, and that is early vision, early decision. So we're looking into the roundabout as we're approaching. We can see there's absolutely nothing coming that we're in to slow down for initially. However, something has approached. We've managed to keep the car moving ever so slightly, and we're taking the first exit left on this occasion, noting the speed limit change. Now we are heading down towards the car park at Morton Palms. Sounds ever so exclusive. Trust me. So we're getting pulled up, and yes, we can see it's on the double yellow lines. However, we are only stopping briefly, and the examiner has asked you to do that there. So we're getting explained to us now that we're going to go into the car park, which is on the right-hand side, and we're going to be doing a forward bay park. So you've been given the information already before entering the car park. So therefore you can get straight into the car park, pick a parking bay, and do a lovely forward bay park. What we do find though, that times on driving tests, people become parking bay blind. They will drive around an empty car park looking for a parking bay. Now I had this once with one girl. She was on for a clean sheet pass, 0 faults. She went into an empty car park. She took forever to find a parking space. She eventually parked in it with no problem, but then she decided to come back out and pick a different space. Now, the examiner told me he should have failed her because of what she did. However, because of the rest of the drive and using common sense, which is brilliant, he passed her with a fault. Otherwise, she would have had a clean sheet. I dare say if she had other faults, then she may well not have passed because of that. So do remember, when you pick your parking bay, go in that parking bay. Yes, adjust if you need to, but don't take the mick. You may just end up failing because of it. Trust yourself. So as we can see there, we've done our parking bay. We've done it pretty much perfectly. And we're now heading back out of the car park, heading back towards the test centre this time. Now heading back up towards the roundabout, we're going to be taking the first exit left. Now a little point to note, you quite possibly noticed this yourselves, well, there was a quick speed limit change there. Remember that one, gone back to 40. When you're doing a first exit on a roundabout, 9 times out of 10, when you're indicating, the indicator's going to come off because you've turned to the left ever so slightly and then you start turning right to come back round. So if that indicator comes off, remember, you need to put it back on. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting a fault, and we don't want that. Now, this is where we can definitely assume that we are going into the test centre. Again, don't mess this up. There is a bike lane and a path on our left-hand side as we approach. Make sure you check that left mirror, as we should be doing anyway, to make sure that nobody is coming along. And then we're into the test centre. And I know I say this every single time, but it's 10 miles an hour in here. Make sure you stick to 10 miles an hour. The last thing we want to be doing is ruining our test because we got a little bit excited and we're desperate for the test to end. Now, don't forget, the test doesn't end until you are fully parked, handbrake applied, neutral or park, and the engine is switched off. Now, you'll have been asked before you go out and test, do you want your instructor to come with you? So your instructor may be in the back with you. Or, and the other question is, do you want the instructor there at the end for your debrief? Now, yes, you do, just in case things have gone wrong, so they can understand where it's gone wrong if they haven't been with you. So your instructor will be watching from the window, watching you come back and waiting for you to park up, and then they will come and join you for the result. Fingers crossed it will be a positive result. However, like I say, unfortunately, in this case, it was actually a fail, and it was all because of that one mistake at the roundabout. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more. I'll get them out as best I can. And yeah, fingers crossed they'll help you pass your test. Any questions, drop them in the comments below, and I will speak to you all soon.